Welcome, everyone, to another episode of
Why the long face?
where Paul and I talk about
Very important stuff. Very important stuff. So important.
it is so important.
I cannot express how important this is.
Exactly.
It keeps us awake at night.
It does. This is the burning questions that you all are afraid to ask, but we're stupid enough to answer it.
Exactly. I mean, if those questions happen to be about comics or cartoons or superhero movies, then yes, these are the burning questions.
Right. And speaking of burning questions, Paul, how was your time with the holidays?
It was pretty good. It was kind of uneventful. Nothing crazy happened, so it was just kind of quiet, which was nice. My wife usually likes to, hey, let's go here, let's go do this, let's do that, and we didn't do that, so I like that.
Well, that's good. That's kind of what happened with me. I went. We normally don't. We did. It was just the opposite. We don't normally go out and do stuff, but I had the time off, so I took it and went and visited with family, and it was just uneventful, but it was with family, so it was good.
So you were all sitting quietly together.
Yes.
Past
We were all huddled
the
around a
chips.
space heater and just sharing the warmth.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So, good holidays. Good holidays.
Good holidays.
Exactly. So, since The Walking Dead is not on, so there's...
Oh, okay, so we're going to cut it short.
Yeah, we're going to cut it short, and that's it. Thanks, folks, for
That was
listening, and
Boom.
have a good day. And there is no Fear the Walking Dead. There is no Game of Thrones. There is no anything that we watch. So, Paul and I got into a subject that I feel that most people can relate to.
Maybe.
And, well, that's why I said most people. And he was arguing with me the other day about...
Lieutenant
I
Uhura?
purchased-
Was it about Lieutenant Uhura and those sexy leggings she used to wear? From Star Trek?
I wish it was about that. But no, it wasn't. It was about... I had purchased a Enterprise drone. And me being the person that I am, sometimes what I'll do is I'll buy certain toys... And
Wait,
I'll
you're
just...
supposed to rephrase it as collectibles.
Oh, sorry. I misspoke. So sometimes I buy these collectibles, and I put it on a shelf, and I never touch it again. And what did you say to me, my friend?
I said it's a frigate. You said it was a drone, and what good is a drone that's sitting there? It's a model.
Well-
It's not a drone. It's a model.
It's in the box still.
I know, but use it.
Well, see, and this is what we're discussing, and this is why we saved it for now, because there's a lot of interesting points that he came up with, and a lot of interesting points that I came up with. So I figured this is something that we should save for the public
For the
to
Battle
listen
Royale?
to. Exactly. Tonight, we're going to take it to the Octagon.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, and let us know how you feel about it. But the way I feel about it is, I personally like collecting certain things, and this is my thing. I when I was younger, I had this fetish with the Transformers,
Fetish.
and I had to have as many as I could afford. And it was because as a kid I wanted to play with them. Now that I'm an adult, I don't really play with them, but I want them.
But a drone is to fly.
You're right. A drone is to fly, but I have another drone that I purchased anyway, and that's the one I'm going to fly. Now, the other one is more of a collectible for me. So, I mean, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know for me, that's the way I'm thinking. But you tell me, Paul. What do you think?
But here's how I think. I mean, being a collector, and yeah, there's like, oh man, I really don't want to open this because it's going to lessen the value. But in reality, the value is more to you because you like it than you're perceiving more value into something. Like, I can't open this. Why not? It's meant to be looked at. It's still, there's still a value to it. Like me, like I just bought some of these things on eBay. They're open, so it's still a value. Would it been worth $400 if it was unopened in the box? Yeah, but I'm not going to spend $400 on that. I want to spend something that I could, like, okay, I can touch it and pose it and put it on the shelf.
So what you're saying is I should open it and then
No, if you want to. No, if you want to.
That can't afford it later on down the line, I could sell it to him for cheap.
Well, no, but why are you, Mike? Let's be honest. You're never going to sell it. You have stuff that you've had for years. This isn't a money making option. This isn't a money making scheme for you. Oh, I'm going to save this because one day it's going to be worth blah blah blah. Because in reality, all these things that people are thinking are going to be worth blah blah blah, they don't usually turn out to be worth that because something else comes out and a new whatever, and it does. Now there are rare exceptions where certain things are, but that's hard. That's hard to know because you're thinking from a fan's point of view. Oh wow, this is great, but you got to find 10 more people like you that think it's great.
Well, and that's the point. I mean, you're talking about a franchise that's been around for years. I mean,
is it NCC 1701-A? Is that the remote?
It is. It is the -A. Yes. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's a franchise that's been around for years. So I mean, with the new, movies that have come out and stuff like that, the franchise has never really lost steam, and it's actually growing more and more with the new movies. So me thinking that, and me just being a Star Trek fan anyway, I just like the fact that I have some of these things. Like I have the a scale model that lights up. It's a it has the little lights. I can switch them on with a little device, and it lights up, and it looks just like it would like in the kind of like in the movies. Yeah. That was something that was built. I have it in a glass case. It's awesome. That's something that I'll never touch again, but it got built. It's in the glass. It's a display for me. This thing, it's just more of a, me being a fan. Hey, I have some kind of memorabilia from the show, even though it's kind of like a drone and it flies, but it's something that I can say, hey, when I was a kid, I wish I would have had something like that too.
But that's what I'm saying is those two items, the first item you listed, yeah, that's going to have some perceived value. I'm looking at this drone. It's cool looking, but it's not something like, oh my God, I got to display this. It's not something that's going to have more value than something like the other piece that you're talking about. So for you to be like, I can't open this ever because I degrade the value of it, there isn't too much more value than what you paid for it to begin with. So you're not like losing anything because you can't play with it.
Well, it also has sounds and lights. Mm-hmm. So the drone does do more than just fly, which is kind of cool.
But what I'm saying is the value what you're placing on this item isn't as, say, like if I had Captain Kirk, I do have the Captain Kirk action figure, but if I had him in pristine condition in the box, that's going to be worth more to a Star Trek fan than this drone is.
And you might be correct. I mean, they would probably want the Kirk before the Enterprise.
Because, I mean, this is something that's still being made, and it may be easier to reproduce now with today's technology and stuff. So even if they wanted to reproduce this, they'll make it better. You know what I'm saying? But certain things, like, say, that Captain Kirk action figure, you're buying nostalgia if you're going to buy that. Like, oh, I remember this from when I was a kid. So that's where the perceived value is. This thing, I'm just saying, if what my whole thing is, if you want to fly it, fly it. You didn't like, oh, I just flushed my XXX dollars down the drain because I want to use it. That's what I'm talking now. Because the perceived value of this isn't as extreme as, say, your other collectibles are. Don't
Well,
deprive yourself
if
of
you
the pleasure, Mike.
well, see, and this is playing devil's advocate because he wants to touch and feel everything. I don't feel that way. I don't think I have to.
No, but I'm saying it's a drone.
Like-
I thought you said, yeah, I'd like to. You said you'd like to try it, but it's numbered. It's in the box. It's this. It's that. You give me all these reasons not to open it, but there was the underlying reason. Yes, I'd like to.
Oh, of course. I mean, who wouldn't want to fly? I mean, they also have the Millennium Falcon too,
Mike,
from Star Wars.
Mike, you would be Captain James T. Cooper.
No.
And you would send that zipping towards Winnie, and she'd go, Michael, stop that! And then you would chase after the dog, and you're like, I have boldly gone where no other Star Trek drone has ever gone before. And it would be true.
You argue. You have some good points.
These are all very good points.
These are all
Please
very good
continue.
points.
You could
But, I mean,
you
it
could
just-
turn the lights out in the hallway and have it go back and forth down the hallway like it's really in space.
Yeah, I mean, this is all. It's all fine. And, okay, I gotta quit now. I gotta go play with it.
No, but you understand what I'm saying. It's like there are certain things that we can all agree. Oh my God, this is a collectible because it's a bust of James T. Kirk and he signed it. Yeah, that's going to be always worth something. But a toy that's a motorized toy, damn it, play with it if you want. Check it out. You're not decreasing the. You're not like it's worth $8,000. Oh, you opened it. Now it's only worth $5. You're not going to decrease the value that much. Yeah, there is a value difference, but you got it for what it is. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, this is just the way I feel. And again, if I really wanted to play with it, I probably would have got two. One to keep in the box, and another one to play with. But I don't feel that strongly. Like, I had to have the toy for the value of.
Well, no, I just
the
remember you saying I'd
collectible.
like to fly it, and I was like, well, that
Well,
sounds
I
like a
mean-
pretty freaking cool drone to fly if you're gonna fly in them because they're pretty they're okay looking, but I'm like, oh my God, that thing is so awesome. The
Yeah.
what it can do is awesome, but the looks of them are whatever, they're all the same.
Yeah.
But
I
Mike,
mean, just-
Mike, one that looks like the Starship Enterprise, and you turn the lights out in the hallway, and it lights up, and it looks like it's really in space.
And you're chasing the dogs and your wife down the hallway.
You can put
See,
on
this
your.
is-
You can squeeze into your James T. Kirk T-shirt.
Actually, I have my my Picard zippered up jacket. So
So
I
you're
would
more of
wear
a
that.
Picard fan.
Well, if you have to pick which captain, I would have to say Picard because Picard. Yes.
What
And-
is it?
and-
Is it because they kind of? Because the first one was cheese. It was cool because
Well,
it was new,
yes.
but realistically, it was a cheesy show. But it was
Of
so
course it was.
innovative. The second one, they're like, shit, we have money to throw at this, and we can develop on the history. So they kind of set it up to be better, realistically.
Well, have you watched the documentary on Netflix about it?
No. About what?
It-
It's about Star Trek in general, or
Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I haven't. And now, to be honest, when I was a kid, that was one of the shows my brother always had on. He had on The Incredible Hulk. Dun 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 dun. He
Okay.
had that on, and then I think Star Trek came on after it. So it was like, oh,
Yes.
cool! I'm watching TV with my big brother, and I liked
Yeah.
it too because it's dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun. I mean, it's action packed. Where Picard was more thinking, and then he had all other special effects to go on and creatures, and they looked better and everything. And I like
Right.
Picard too. I mean, I like that show as well. But I mean, I gotta say, recapturing the excitement of my youth because I had all the action figures too, from
did you?
Star Trek. Yeah, I had.
You
I was.
lucky bastard.
I mean, I had the
You lucky bastard.
the alien
I
that
can't be
was the
friends with you
half.
anymore.
The alien that was the half one color on one side, the other side.
right, the black and white
The
one. yeah.
ape that had the unicorn horn on his head.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I still have on my shelf the little miniature guy, like the little alien with the big head.
Yeah, you know there's somebody going, yeah. Go ahead.
I just,
More?
dude, I
More?
just spent $10 for reproduction boots for that alien. Because I've been researching, because I wanted to buy this whole Spider-Man thing, so I was researching different things, and I came upon
Right.
these places that do reproductions for them. So I got
Mm.
I ordered a new shirt for Captain Kirk, nice bright orange one or yellow one.
Nice.
The boots for that alien, and that was the most expensive part, was the boots, $10. The
Right.
Captain Kirk shirt was like $3. So I also have a Planet of the Apes doll. I bought a whole new wardrobe for him, and they're like $3, $2, $3. I went a little crazy. And I also want to get, and I have an Incredible Hulk doll that I've always had for years. I've had these cheesy shorts from some other action figure I just threw on there because the original one's ripped up. So they had a reproduction green shorts. I bought them too. And at first I'm like, okay, it's not the original, but it's for me. It's for me to go, look, that's what I remember as a kid, and I display it. So is it
For me. For mine.
is it like, oh, now I just increased the value of it? Not really, but it's more for the aesthetic of a person. Like, I bought this Spider-Man. The guy said, hey, I run in there and I re-elasticed the inside. So he took out the old elastics that were probably broken and put new ones in there. So technically the inside isn't original, but it's going to last me 40 more years
Right.
because they redid it. So to me, looking at ones that were more expensive that looked just as good, I said, you know, I'm going to spend this money because it looks good, and the insides are new, so I don't have to worry about it sitting on there, and when it gets cold in a room, it breaks, you know, because the temperature changed or whatever.
Right.
So for me, that was more value because I'm like, hey, I'm going to have this for 40 more years.
You think you're going to live that long?
To 80? Yeah, why not?
With your lifestyle?
I don't smoke.
With your lifestyle and your drinking?
I don't drink that much, and I don't smoke. I just eat too much, and I'm trying to stop. That's my legal.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you. If I have open action figures myself that, if given the choice, because I know I've done a couple of research and we've looked at stuff that I've shown you where you can change the bodies and use the original, clothing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I went to that website. And I'm like, hey, they're only like $3, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, he's all dingy. I mean, buy the friggin' new. I'm not taking this to the bank and going, hey, I want to put a down payment on this house with this Captain Kirk doll. I'm not doing that. It's sitting on my shelf. It was sitting up in my mother's attic for years in the cold and the heat. So it's now got a secure place in my room on a special pedestal. No, it's got a on my little shelf here.
He said, finally, I've been brought out into the light.
And I ordered a replacement phaser and the little communicator thing that it came with. The original one was blue. That was like $7. So they had the knockoff that was red. That was $2. It was like, oh, special $2. I was like, I bought that one. I don't need the blue. It works for me. It's still the phaser. It still has that little communicator thing.
I don't know. I don't know. It's not authentic.
Yeah.
It's just not right. Yeah, I understand what you mean. I mean, I deal with some Japanese knockoffs of some of the Transformers as well, because they're cheap.
Now,
And that's what I do.
people, like, if you ever gone to like eBay and people are trying to push them off as the original?
Some do, and you have to be careful because
Yeah, I've noticed some of that shit.
yeah, there's some different, like, there's one that I bought where it's a Jazz reproduction, and the original Jazz was a Porsche 911.
Okay.
Now the reproduction that they're doing is a Mazda RX 7 or 8.
To make it more like modern or something? Or
Yeah,
just
to make
different,
it. Yeah, they call them like generations, is what they call them. So they kind of give them a more modern look. So it's an RX-7, I think it is, and the toy itself only cost me like, I think it was like $10 or $12.
Okay.
And then I bought like an Optimus Prime and some other figures.
Some other $900 figures.
Yeah. So I get this Jazz, and I get it, and I open it up because I know it's not an original. I know it's a knockoff.
Yeah. And again, this is something for you. It's like, hey, I want to see it. I can put it on the shelf over here. I can pose them over here, whatever.
Exactly. So I open it up, and it's fully metal. So it's metal with rubber tires. So it's good quality. It's good craftsmanship. I mean, it feels like weight. You know, it doesn't feel plastic.
It doesn't feel like it's going to
weighted.
break. If you were a kid and you were going to play with it, it wouldn't break in like two times.
Right. So, you know, I take it, and I go to transform it, and you got to go through the directions because the new ones are just so complicated to.
Well, yeah, I was looking at
right
some because I think I was flipping through my action figures and I saw something about when it transforms. I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. And then I flipped through a couple of them, and they're different. Like I think it was Acid Storm or somebody. He's like a green fighter jet.
Right.
So he looks more like a modern. What the military would use now or whatever.
Yeah, the what is it, the F-22?
Yeah, but then when I took a closer look at some, I'm like, he still looks like, you remember the original Transformers. Wow, and then you're like, it looks okay as the vehicle, but then when you transform it into the robot, I'm like, it's not really robot-esque. It's just like a fist on the end of the wing. I mean, it's
Yeah, well, you're probably looking at it from like the movie. The movie ones were just, the Michael Bay versions are just really weak. Yeah,
well, I just saw a couple and I thought it looked kind of cool at first, and then like I saw some of the patterns. I'm like, I don't know if I like that green army pattern on the jet fighter for. I don't know. I just the green is what caught me because it was real bright. I was like, oh, and then when I clicked on, it, I'm like, I don't know if I like the pattern.
Yeah, like they have, like I got a Masterpiece Skywarp.
Okay.
And he looks exactly like the cartoon, like when they had the wings behind them.
Okay.
Like it looks like there's coming out of the back of the shoulders. On the show they did that, and when you got the toy, it was coming from their legs. So you were just like, oh, it's not like the
I'm looking
cartoon.
it up now.
Yeah, and the Masterpiece version looks just awesome. I mean, the detail that they put into it, like metal rivets and like
it
looks
does.
like plating
I'm looking
put
at
together. And
who is this? The Thrust.
Starscream.
Brown looking one.
Oh,
it's just
Thrust,
the closest one I found to. So that thing will transform into the regular ship, but what, you got to take a bunch of stuff off it or something?
I don't know. I've never opened up this one because it's a Masterpiece edition. But I've seen people online, like if you go to YouTube, you could see them transforming it and doing whatever, and it looks just like the F-18, F-16.
They look pretty cool. Yeah, they do look a good representation of the what are they? They're not robots. They're atomic. What do they call them?
Autonomous. Well, the Autobots were autonomous something
creation beings. Yeah. So this synthetic mechanized Mega Pegasus. They do look like the cartoon where they have the shapes and everything. So how did they make that transform correctly?
Yeah.
Because when you would see
a lot of it is because they're bigger. You can hide and open up and put, like with Optimus Prime. I have the Masterpiece edition of Optimus Prime, but it's the 30th anniversary edition.
Is it 30 or 20?
And
I see one here that's 20th anniversary.
It might be the 20th. I can't really see it from here. So, And what you do, like with the fist, like in the original one, you just pop the fist onto the headlights. Or with this, what happens is there's actually the arm, you open up the compartment and the fists fold in. And then you close the compartment on that. So it's a lot different than the original, ones where it was just kind of like, how can we make this small little toy
for that,
transform into something
for
that
the
looks
amount
like
of money someone's going to pay for a kid's toy.
Right. Yeah.
Dude, nobody has them open. They're all in boxes. Where's the open ones, damn it?
Yeah, nobody really wants to open those.
Transformers up in Convoy? No, this is probably something else.
Convoy is the Japanese version of it. It's
okay.
a smaller version of it. It's I have that one too. I have the Pepsi bottle version of it. It's the original Optimus Prime, but the trailer in the back holds a Pepsi. So you could put a Pepsi bottle in the back. It's a Japanese only type of thing.
Americans love
the Convoy. Yeah, the Convoy is the trailer. You stand it up and you open it up and it becomes like a repair station. So it kind of repairs. It's supposed to be like for to repair him. I have the Optimus Prime where he's a Dodge.
He's a Dodge.
I have. Yeah, he's a Dodge.
What? I mean, they don't really have brands.
No, but he looks like a Dodge, like Ram or something. I have the one where it's an updated version of what the tractor trailers look like. So, you know how you have those ones with like kind of like that big, like a windshield on a windscreen on the top of the trailer.
It's one continuous
where
screen.
That one where
two individual.
Yeah, so it's like it's really weird looking thing. So it's that comes off of the back and turns into like a gun. And then I have like a lot of the different. I have him as Orion Pax. That was before he became Optimus Prime. Orion Pax.
What is
if you ever seen in the original series, they explain the origin of Optimus Prime, and the original Optimus Prime was called
in the cartoon or the movie.
In the cartoon.
Now this isn't the one that was
in the original G1 series.
The cheesy one that started it all. They talked about him there.
Yes, they did talk about Alpha Trion.
Oh, so it wasn't what he was before this, or there was another guy that was his position?
He was Orion Pax. And then something happened where Megatronus, or Megatron as you would know him now, had gotten into a fight with him, and then he was badly hurt, so Alpha Trion took him and rebuilt him and made him Optimus Prime. And I have the video game version of Optimus Prime, which is actually kind of cool because he's kind of like a space. Like he doesn't really have he has wheels, but like when he goes to take off and like go really fast, the wheels turn into like a hover, like some kind of hovering thing, and like little like jets are supposed to come out of it, and it hovers. So I have also like some of the different versions of him from different cartoon series where he's a fire truck, where he's this really big giant trailer, and all these other ones. But
I do see a picture of this Orion Pax, and he looks cheese. He is not a hero.
Well, yeah. No, he wasn't. Not originally. Then he became a hero. But yeah, like I just recently purchased what is his name? The Springer, which is a triple changer. And he goes from robot, helicopter, and a car. And He's the 30th anniversary edition. So they came out with that in 2014, and that one, when you it's the Hasbro version of it. It's not the knockoff version. So that one I bought two of because I liked Springer from the movie. So I opened up one and kept the other one in the box. Now, when I opened it up, it's plastic. It's really plasticky. You could feel it's plasticky. Well, it doesn't feel like it's going to break, but it just feels plasticky. And it's sometimes, when you're trying to transform them, you're scared to kind of move certain parts because you feel like, ooh, if I pull it too hard, it's going to break.
Well, that's what I just said.
Well, it won't break. It just feels weird, like you're not used to. And I'm sure if you used it more and more, it would kind of loosen up. And
when it's so tight in the beginning, like, this seems too. I'm putting too much effort into move this. Yeah.
Exactly. So, what I did do is
what is going on?
I don't know. It's the War of the Worlds. So what I did do is, when I opened up the one and I went to go transform it, and I opened up the instructions, I'm like, Jesus, what do I need, a degree in?
I'm afraid you will.
Yeah, it's like I need an engineering degree to figure this out.
Well, all those people that design them, all those the Japanese, they're just like, oh, this is child's play.
Yeah, well, it wasn't child's play. So, I went through, I transformed him into a car, and I'm like, all right, he looks cool as a car, because it does look like a real car, compared to the original one. When you transformed him, it's like the front end, you just kind of pop wheels down, and then the rear, still, what you do is you kind of split the wing, you kind of split it a little bit, and then that's was supposed to make it look like a car.
And did it?
And this one, well, no, it didn't. Not in the original one. The G1, actually, I shouldn't call it G1. I think that would be G2. Because this was from the movie, from Transformers the movie. And now with this one, I mean, it actually looks like a car. And when you transform it into a helicopter, it looks like a helicopter. And then when you transform it into a robot, it looks like a robot. So, I mean,
they've done the research and the whatever to figure out how to fit the square peg into the round hole.
Exactly. And of course, these pieces are not cheap anymore. It's not like when we were younger and we bought Transformers, you bought them for $5. Like the more extravagant ones, they were like 10, and then like the leader class, which was like Optimus, you bought it for 20. Now it's not like that anymore. I mean, if you buy like a leader class like Optimus, you're going to be spending about $100. And then, as you go down the line, then it gets, less and less and less. I think the next big investment that I'm going to do is I definitely want a Masterpiece edition of Megatron. And then I do want a Galvatron.
That's going to be the big one.
And I want a Grimlock. Oh, yeah. That's the Masterpiece edition.
How much do they go?
Well, like the Megatron goes for about $100. If it's in the box, unopened, you're looking at $100 to $200 to $300, depending on where you get it from. The Galvatron, I think, is going for less than $100. And then the Grimlock is going for about $150 and up. Well, he's pretty cool looking, and he transforms, and he looks just like the cartoon. And you can buy like little accessories for him aftermarket, like you can get like a crown for him. Yeah, you can get a crown. Because at one point, in the Marvel comics, he actually wanted to become king and got a crown made for himself and was going crazy, just beating up people trying to become
Didn't he do that?
king.
He did something similar in the comic where, I want to be. He wanted to be something. Did they?
He wanted to be the leader when they first made him, and then he found that Optimus was, a much stronger leader. So he just said, you know what, it's too much brain power to become a leader. You just take over. Yeah, but I mean that's me. I mean, I would never open up that Optimus. For as much as I would love to touch him and just kind of, pose him and see how he transforms for myself, I just don't feel the need that I really need to open it. But that's just me. I mean, that's just the way I am. Like, I also have like a hot rod. I have a one that was made recently that I bought, which is actually really cool looking. And I got this really cheap because sometimes what I do is I'll go into like certain department stores and they try to sell them off cheap because they don't know what they have and they don't care.
Would it be in department
And
stores? How can
I
they
bought this.
change the price?
Well, because you go to like a Ross, and like Ross, they don't. It's really, just a clothing store. But sometimes if you go to the back, they have like children's stuff because they try to get the kids. And they have stuff like that there.
Really?
But they don't really know what they have, so they just mark it down just to try to get rid of it. And I bought this. It was a Cyclonus with hot rod, combo kit. And then I got it for like $5.99. So it was just like, it was just like a steal.
Well, then
for
you
me.
can open that one. It's cheap.
Yeah, if I had another one, I probably would have, but there was only one.
And the
there.
package wasn't damaged or anything like that. A lot of times it's all chewed up.
No, the package is still good. Yeah. So I got pretty good with that one. But if I ever feel the need that I need to have one of the Transformers that I need to open up, I just go and buy a bootleg, and I feel just as good about it because it's almost the same.
Well, what
Yeah.
if you came home and, Michael, the kids were over and you're blah, 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 and one of the little kids opened?
What
don't know.
little kid?
I'm just saying. Someone's friend came
What
to
little?
visit.
Because they would never find him ever again.
You'd be like, come on.
Have you seen that? No, I don't know.
You'd
where
be
it
like,
happened.
come on, kids. Kids, come on, kids.
It's bad enough when he's friends. This was years ago. He comes over and he sees. This is when I just had my the Optimus, because that's the one my wife got me, the Optimus, in the packaging and stuff like that. And he sees it. And he goes, "What is that?" And I said, "It's a Transformer." And he goes, "What kind?" And I said, "Well, that's Optimus Prime." And I explained it to him. He's like, "I never had a Transformer." And I said, "Oh, that's a shame. Okay, let's get out of the room."
Yeah, there's no need to go any further. That doesn't mean he gets to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, no.
Look it up
All right,
online,
out of the room,
buddy.
Out of the room.
Go buy one of your own.
Exactly. So, did you get out and see Rogue One?
I did
yet?
not. I did not see it.
You're missing a great movie.
I can watch it in a couple of weeks if I want to watch it. No, I haven't. I haven't. We just haven't been felt too much in the movie mood.
Well, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
For those of you who don't know what Rogue One is, it's actually the prequel to A New Hope, which in everybody's eyes is Star Wars Episode 4, which is actually the first episode of Star Wars that came out back in the 70s. And what it is, it explains how they got the plans to the Death Star. So, if you remember, in A New Hope, they were talking about how they said a lot of good people died getting. Well, they show how the people go through that and what happens, and General Tarkin is in it. I was going to say General Grievous. General Tarkin is in it. And if anybody knows anything about the characters, General Tarkin, he's the guy who played him originally is dead.
Yeah, I saw that whole thing. I did see a couple of things on how they reproduced him and everything. Looked pretty good.
Yeah, so they got some actor named Guy Henry, and they had him do all the mechanical and the acting that you would have to do to play that character. So he, played him like he would, the very stern, the very rigid look that he would have. And when you see him on screen, I swear to you, unless you know that it's CGI, you're like, oh my god, it's him. You're just like,
because the original guy had a very just like a gaunt kind of skeleton-y face, like a real old aged face. A lot of character.
Yes.
I guess you would say.
Yeah, and that's what they did. They actually digitally, and it's funny because before they had this technology, Lucas had taken headshots, a 360 headshot of all the actors beforehand. And this was before this technology was out, which he was kind of foreseeing, I guess. And they had this 360 view of him, so they were able to make his face and put it on this new guy, this guy Henry's face.
When I watched the couple-minute documentary, whatever on it, they said they lucked out. Secondly, because there was a movie called Top Secret, where he played a guy in a library. Did you ever see that movie? It was a comedy. Well, he was the guy in the library, where the guy when he moves the magnifying away from his eye, there was the big eye. So they had a physical cast of his face with just the big eye. So they were able to put that down and digitally map, because it was right around the same time. So the features were pretty spot on. So that, I guess, filled up some of the gaps that they weren't familiar with or something like that.
Yeah. And they did the same thing with Princess Leia, with Carrie Fisher.
Which,
I mean, you could tell with her that it was digitally enhanced. Like, you could tell it was digitally fake. I mean, it just looked fake on her. For some reason, the face just looked too rounded.
Well, I think, too, is the other guy had
big.
that really almost not normal face.
Oh, yeah.
So you can kind of get away with a little caricature almost.
Yeah, which he like I said, they pulled it off. He looked just like him, and it was just like when you see that on the screen, you're just like, oh my god, that is so him. And then the different people that played in there, you know who Alan Tudyk is? I'm probably saying his name wrong, but do you remember that series Firefly? Okay, remember the
main
pilot
guy that everybody gushes over when they say, "Look at your Firefly." No.
The pilot.
I don't know.
The pilot. The guy who flew the ship in Firefly.
So that's the guy who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Remember he was in Transformers. He was in the movie. I think he was in the second movie. They called him Dutch. Okay. So he played the robot voice of K2SO.
And that's that gray, skinny looking one? Is it that?
Yeah, the one robot that was just really tall, lanky, kind of looking. And it's funny because they reprogrammed the robots. The robot would just say like off the wall things that would make you kind of laugh, and you can hear his voice in it, and it makes it funny because you know it's him. Like there's this one point where like the main girl, which is Felicity Jones, I forget her character's name is Jen Arisso or something like that. So she says, okay, I'm going to go on this mission, and who's with me? And like everybody's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So everybody kind of dissipates, and he's there. And he goes, don't worry, I'll be with you because I was commanded to. And then he walks away, and you're just like,
There's no. It's not really loyalty. It's program.
yeah. But he would just say, stuff like that, and it would just make you crack up because he's just funny in what he does. But like the whole thing was just a really good.
Yeah, that's what people were
movie
saying
overall. Like yeah. I mean, when they test the Death Star, just to show how, it would work, and at first they started by destroying cities. It was really cool just to see that. You're just like, whoa. And that was just like not even using full power. They were just using, just to show it works. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then, it was, and then Darth Vader is in it, and, like you see all these people, and you're just like, I can't believe, how this whole thing came up. Like, what was her name? Mothma? Remember the one lady who was a part of the rebellion, and she was kind of like in this, like whenever everybody was talking about what's going on, she was kind of like the leading lady there. Her character, which if you see her from the 70s and then you see the person that plays her now, they look exactly the same. And you're just like, oh man! I mean, when you're watching in the movie, and you're like, hey, she looks exactly the same. But it's a different character. It's a different person playing her. You're just like, I mean, just to see all these characters from like the 70s, and then all of a sudden you see them being played now, and they looked almost the same, and you're just like, wow! It was just they did an incredible job on it.
Yeah, that was I think, and that's again, I think like with the other movie that recently, what was the other movie name? The one that just came out prior to this. Yeah,
Force Awakens.
In that one, they introduced a lot of new characters, but they had a lot of the old characters for the people. Oh, there's Han Solo. Oh, there's so and so. So there was something for old viewers and new viewers to kind of come together. Right. And I was like, you know what? I enjoy seeing the old stuff, but hey, I'm interested in the new story as well. But I mean, there wasn't anybody who didn't want to see Han Solo. Of course, at the end, Luke Skywalker. Like, what? Where is he?
Yeah.
But yeah, what's funny is a guy at work never saw. He's a younger guy. He's in his 25, something like that. He never saw the original 3. His Star Wars experience is the crap ones. And he's like, yeah, he's like all into as far as the story of this, and I'm like, how can you get past the little kid flying the starship and the whole thing with its little, like a babysitting the kid for the first movie. I mean, the other two movies, I kind of like some of the story to it. I don't know that I would say they're better than the original ones, but he finally started watching the first one, and he was ripping it apart. He was ripping, oh, what about this? And it's just all the cheesy special effects. And I'm like, you've got to understand, what you see now, this is where it came from. This is the birth of all these special effects things. But if you do look at it from his eyes, you do see like, okay, that is. Like he said in the TIE Fighter, the guy's like, oh, I got to go over here. He turns a knob. Like, what's that? Yeah. What is that going to do in the spaceship? Oh, I got to turn here. He turned a knob. So he was making fun of it. And he made fun of the part where Darth Vader goes, I haven't felt this presence since. And he immediately turns away and walks away. He's like, there's not even a moment for him to react to it. He just goes, I haven't felt a presence like this since. And he immediately turns and walks. He's like, no.
Well, because he knew where he had to go.
But he's just saying there's no like, I haven't felt the presence, and then you like give that like, oh, and then like a minute to sink in. But I told him, I was like,
yeah, but he didn't need to. Because if he's a Force user, he would know who that presence is, and that's why he reacted right away.
As a viewer, he didn't give you any indication of it. That's what his funny thing was. Is like, why does he just immediately? He doesn't give that dramatic pause, a moment, for you to go, oh, he knows who it is. that's less for you to pick
because
up on.
that's the new way of babying us and giving us more. Where back in the day, they didn't give us all
Well,
those
then that's
clues and stuff like that. They
And
didn't
that's why I
give
explained
us.
to them. I was like, you grow up knowing what the Force is, because in those 3 movies, the Force is always kind of already spoken about. In this movie, what is the
Right.
Force? You're learning as you go. You don't know what it is really, and maybe to the end of the movie, kind of. Because you're learning it as Luke is learning what it is. So
Exactly. Your journey is his journey.
And so you're picking up pieces and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, but I mean, just looking at it from his eyes, I can see where some of this stuff is. But again, that's us messing with our nostalgia. Like, oh, don't make fun of Star Wars. But I mean, but if you were to look at it from a technical point of view for now movies, you'd be like, oh yeah, that looks stupid.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely cheese.
Like the guy's in the spaceship and
But
he's all
you're not
bouncing around
watching
like
it for
he's
the
in a
cheese.
truck with bad shocks. Like why
Yeah,
is it?
yeah.
Why is he bouncing? Like what's wrong with the chair? Don't they have it strapped down? Like why is he fumbling around?
Well, the one thing that always annoyed me about any kind of space battle is that there's no inertia in space. And yet, everybody, even down to Star Trek, it's like as soon as they get hit, everybody's moving to one side to the other. Now, okay, in Star Trek, a little bit different. They have artificial gravity, so if the ship gets hit, maybe they would feel it and move back and forth. Okay, but like in every single, like they go to take off, and it's always like everybody's like strapped into the chair because they got to go take off. But there's no inertia in space. You wouldn't feel the ship taking off. It would just be like normal, like you'd just be standing here.
What's our connection to that is the rocket ships. When the astronauts, they had to be strapped down and you see them, whoa, hold on. So that's how we, something taking off someplace, that's how we associate it to. Like, you better hold on, or I'm in a roller coaster, you better hold on, because that's what we're in. Nobody's been to space, so our point of reference is, there's a lot of power behind you, and you're sitting in front of this, it's going to sit you back in your seat.
Yeah, but and that's why, for me, I like it when a show consults real scientists. I mean, Star Trek, The Next Generation did that. After a while, they did consult with real scientists, and they did get the input of the actual science community, so that way they just weren't making up words.
So were they like, we're going to do this, and there was a guy in the corner like this with his hand over his throat. No, God, no, that won't do that. No, it'll never do that.
The neutrinos would never mix with the antimatter. No,
it would never happen.
No.
And eventually they're like, all right, we can't even write a story now. You ruined it.
You ruined it. Well, it's funny. Like, if you get a chance, and I started saying this before I asked you about it, if you get a chance to watch the Star Trek documentary, it was, I think it was called Star Trek. It almost never was, or something like that.
And I think I remember something, reading something, or perusing past something like that.
Yeah. And it was interesting because Gene Roddenberry didn't want to do Star Trek again.
Why?
And if he did want to do it, he wanted to do original series. Like, he wanted to go back to the 1970s Star Trek. And Paramount didn't want to do that. They wanted to go with...
When is that, now? Or when was that? When Next Generation came out?
When the next Generation.
Well, tell me you wouldn't want to see that, though. You wouldn't want to see the old Star Trek done modern.
Don't get me wrong. I like the new movies. The new movies that came out, because it's cool to watch them with
the technology they should
better
have.
Technology, and they should have.
What were we talking about just today? There was that one guy that was crippled, the one captain, and I think that's what the new series is going to be based off that guy. But he's in a box, and this is how they communicate. Beep 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 beep. Like, okay, wait. There's no way to have like an android or some kind of voice box. I mean, we got Stephen Hawking with that voice thing.
Yeah,
And that's today's technology.
the voice synthesizer.
There's no way to
yeah.
communicate
But-
with.
But again, that's without consulting and with doing with
But
limited.
as a kid, or even as an
but-
adult, would you be like,
but there-
"Oh no, that's not believable"? You're like, "Oh yeah, that seems plausible."
Well, the thing is that back in the day, technology, was not as advanced, and people didn't think technology was going to get beyond what they had
And
already.
the budget too. They didn't have a lot of money for that shit at all.
Well, yeah, the budget was. I mean, they were sharing the studio and the makeup and everything with Lost in Space. So, I mean, everything was just all the same.
But how funny is that?
So they had to. Yeah, they had to share all that. So it was just like, what did you have? You had nothing. I mean, the same monster that just showed up in Lost in Space, all of a sudden they're using it on Star Trek.
But how funny is
You
that
know what
they
I mean?
could be
Because-
so successful with so many weird stuff? Where you have these shows today, where they have a lot, and it sucks.
Well, because there was a storyline. There was
And
a
they had
plot.
actors, too.
People cared.
Not
Well,
faces.
Yeah.
Well, Captain Kirk was still.
I he was, but Leonard Nimoy was a good actor.
Well, because he was the voice on it in Search of. Yes, I love it.
because he. There's a documentary on Spock that I recommend too, on Leonard Nimoy, not on Spock, where his son goes and yeah, he goes and he interviews people about his father, and then he talks about his father as well.
Did this come out after he passed away, or it's been out? Okay,
Yeah.
because I thought I saw something about it, but maybe it must have.
Yeah, so he was talking to people about it, and then he shares his own history about his father and what he knew about his father, and how his father had a drinking problem, and
Really?
how his father, was just a workaholic, and the reason why he drank was to kind of take the edge off because he was a workaholic. You know what I mean? It was
Well,
just
that's how
like,
they did it. That's how they did it. Well, that's how
Yeah.
people do it today
and
too.
yeah, I mean, he wasn't into drugs or something like something hardcore like that. But back in the day, I guess drinking
Alcohol
was
is a
as hardcore
drug.
well, it's a
It's
different social drug,
it's
you
a
know what I
legal
mean?
drug, is what it is. Whatever you
Yeah,
can
that's
do
true.
with drugs, you can do with alcohol, really, to the same effect.
Yeah. And then, of course, they had, where they were talking to him about different things, and when they did the Star Trek cartoon after the
Yeah.
the series was canceled, they only wanted Leonard Nimoy and William
Legal
Shatner.
voices.
Those are the only voices they wanted. And Leonard Nimoy said, "Hey, if you guys don't bring back some of the original voices, I'm not going to do the show." So that's when they brought back Uhura and George Takei and the guy who played
my.
Scott. I don't remember his name. Yeah, and I don't remember if DeForest Kelly was
Hey,
in it.
I
think
remember
he
that
was,
cartoon
yeah.
had that awesome, there was some kind of lizard or bird creature that was a member of the team. He was like orange and he was all skinny.
Yeah, I think that was the lizard guy. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, he was like one of the guys that was sitting next to George Takei.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you see about him, that he was just like, he was loyal to the people on the show. That's just the way he was. Where he wasn't about the almighty dollar, per se. And then they talked about when he did the Bilbo Baggins song. I don't know if you've ever seen that video.
Now that you're saying it strikes a chord, but you wouldn't be able to pull that out of my memory without you telling me right now.
Yeah, he did the song for Bilbo Baggins, and it's so cheesy and so bad, but it was for the day. I guess it was good. And like all these people have the big hobbit ears, and you know, I guess they have the hobbit feet, and they're dancing around to him singing, you know, about Bilbo Baggins. And you know, he tried to do a little bit of everything. If you remember, he was on Mission Impossible, and you know, he was doing like so much stuff. And then
Mission Impossible was a good show back in the day.
Yeah,
I don't know
back
about
in
this
the
whole
day.
Tom Cruise deal, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with it myself, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's a good documentary. You gotta watch it because it's interesting to find out about him. And then watching that other one, how Gene Roddenberry almost killed The Next Generation.
what? Because he's like, no, I want to redo the original show.
Well, no, because then he didn't want to do it, so he refused to do it. So the whole project got delayed like 3 years, because they didn't want to put out a Star Trek movie, or I mean TV show, without his name associated with it, because nobody would watch it. You know what I mean? Because it would just be a pale comparison to what he can do. So eventually, what they convinced him, and the first episode he wrote with some other woman. And what happened was the show, they wanted to do an hour-long show. And he said, and the studio said, no, we want to do a 2-hour. And he's like, no, I want to do an hour. And the studio's like, listen, either you do a 2-hour or this is not getting off the ground. So what happened was he had some woman that was his assistant, who was one of the writers there. She wrote the first episode, but she had only an hour or an hour and a half or something like that. So he was able to write the rest of the show and then take credit for the whole thing. So he didn't even give her credit on the whole show.
So does I would, buddy. The old.
And yeah, and then like he was just doing like crazy stuff. Like every time he did an episode, it was always about how, you know, everything was utopia, everything's great, you know, everything is fine. And like the show for the first couple of years was just like not picking up a fan base like it should. And he even got rid of the woman that played Beverly for like the second season.
Who is that? The doctor?
Yeah, the doctor, the redheaded.
And that's
doctor.
the one who was the mother of Wesley.
Yeah, Wesley Crusher. Yeah. So he gets rid of her because he says it's not working. He's like, it's not working. It's not. You're not believable. So he gets this other woman, and she totally like ruined the whole thing. Like she just did not mesh in well. So and then eventually they told her, listen, we got to get this other woman back because she was better. So and then by the third season, he was just like, you know, he started getting sick. He started declining, and they were just like, you know what? He's like, I can't do this no more. I'm just going to, you know, I'm just going to hand it over to, you know, the other writers there and let them.
Hey, what is going on over there?
So and then when they took over, they the show started getting awards. The show, you know, the popularity started growing. It was just doing so much better. So it pretty much goes to show you that he was just
holding it back.
Really just ruining.
Well, was he doing
was
it
just
on
holding
purpose
it
or
back.
just he just didn't have.
He was just
They put too much emphasis on, oh, it's him, but he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
exactly. It's just one of those things. He
wasn't the right man for the job.
He wasn't. No, he wasn't. And then, so he left the show, even though his name was still associated with it, and he was still getting credit for it. You know, he just.
Well,
left the show,
they should have said, you know, we're going to
to
stand on our own without him. They shouldn't have been
Yeah,
afraid
well,
to.
I mean, they didn't want to do a Star Trek without his name on it because he was the creator of the first Star Trek. And they knew the fan base wouldn't follow unless his name was on
But
it.
as you see, if it's good, they'll they will.
Yeah, well, and then it went on for more seasons, and by the 7th season, it was winning so many awards, and it was doing so great. But he almost killed it. He almost killed the whole thing because he just, he had this way of thinking of things, and people were just like, "What?" And he was also doing like George Lucas, like George Lucas. I don't know if you've ever heard like some of the stories about him. Like he would walk into a room, and they would show him a finished product, and they would say, "Okay, this is what it looks like, and this is how it's going to be." And he'll look at it and go, "You know what? Make all these ships blue. I don't like that. I make them all blue." But we already finished this. It's going to take weeks to do, and it doesn't. It's going to cost this much money. I don't care.
He's
This
the
is what I
man with the
want.
plan, dude. He's the man with the power.
And then they change him all to blue, and then he'd come in and go, "You know what? I didn't like the blue. Change it back."
Fucker.
And he'd do that all the
So
time.
he was just an a-hole.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then like the one time, like I remember I was watching a thing about the game, the Force Unleashed. That was the one with Star Killer. And they were talking about how he was involved in the whole game, and he came up with all the names and stuff like that. He's just like I think before they came out with the name Star Killer, they asked him, well, what is the main character's name? And he's just like, I don't know, call him Cloud Jumper.
So he just made it up on the fly.
And yeah, he would just make it up on the fly. He's just like, I'll call him Cloud Jumper. And they're like, okay. So they called him Cloud Jumper. And then he's like, you know what? I don't like that. Call him Star Killer. Okay, we'll call him Star Killer. So they change all the wording. They call him Star Killer. Then he's just like, you know what? I don't like that. Why don't we call him? And this is just like, he just couldn't make up his mind, and he just thought whatever idea he had, it had to be better than the last one he had. And
But
I know the
again,
last
they
game
were
was just horrible.
afraid to say, you know what? Let's they want that money, almighty dollar. Let's keep this asshole on the payroll. And they should say, no, we're going to make a Star Wars. We already have your blessing. We're going to do this, this, and this.
Well, you couldn't, because back in the day, he owned all the rights to Star Wars. So you couldn't make a Star Wars movie without his blessing, or a game, or anything. He held the rights to everything, and once Disney bought him out, I mean, that's the best thing they ever did for the franchise, because he was just killing it. He had no fresh ideas. He didn't want to give anybody any creative licensing. It was just one of those things where he's just like, he just thought all his ideas were gold, and nobody knew any better.
And that's how they treated him.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is the fault of the studios and everybody around him that treated him like that. But I mean, he believed it. That's the worst part. He believed it.
And that's the thing. They're always, money has a lot to do. Oh, this guy got to know what he's doing. No, he doesn't. He's insane.
No, yeah,
He's a lunatic.
exactly. Like, just like Michael Bay. Like, people love throwing money at him because they think he knows what he's doing, and he's just like, don't get me wrong. I love that he was able to bring the Transformers to a full, the live action screen. But he just ruined
Really?
my whole memory.
You're
of it.
upset with the
You know what
Transformers.
I mean? Oh yeah. I think they could
Story
have done a
or
better
bringing
job
them
to
to life?
at least.
Story.
Well, not bringing them to life, because they did a good job with bringing them to life.
Because it's always
story. It's just
It's always somebody like saying, "Hey, I can write it." But if you were, but again, you're banking on your childhood memories of these things. if you go back and watch the cartoons from beginning to end now, you'd be like, it's kind of a silly story. Some of it.
Oh no, they sucked. They sucked 100%.
Yeah, because
But
it was
as a child, you
it was
loved
a
it because,
30-minute
hey,
commercial
what did you have?
for the toy you want to get. Oh, look at that guy! I
Yeah.
can't wait to get that guy.
Exactly. But I mean, they could have done a little bit better to represent at least the G1, or at least keep some. I mean, like it looks like this is kind of like a theme that they have now. It's like in every one of these movies, they kill off like almost
Robots
everybody.
or the robots or the
Batman's
the people?
guilty of this. The robots. It's like every one of them, would get ripped apart. I mean, like Jazz, who was the coolest one growing up. I remember growing up, and Scatman Crothers did the voice of him. And you were just like, man, that 911.
That's why you
just
liked it, because
awesome.
it was like a car.
And
And you
then-
said, I'll never be able to drive one of those things.
And he and the first thing they do is, Megatron comes down when he first gets liberated, and he's fighting the Autobots. The first thing he does is he picks up Jazz, and as he's talking, Jazz is trying to get out of his grips, and he talking junk. He just rips him in half and just tosses
Mike,
him aside. It's just
He
like,
had to die.
I think it
Mike.
was nothing.
That's how it is, buddy. He had to die. That spark had to be extinguished.
No.
Make room for, make
No.
room for Buzzy
More
double
toys.
double D or whatever.
More
it is.
to it.
Easy E. They had to make room for another guy.
Yeah, that's when they had to make room for those two idiot cars that were so
do you mean
racist
racist
looking.
looking?
You don't remember those two cars from like the second movie? They had these two.
Were they
they
like
had these
Japanese
two cars.
like sports cars or something?
No, they were. Well, of course they were sports cars, but they were like two mini
Like Mini
cars, but they
Cooper
were just
type thing?
like. Yeah, something like
What
that.
were
I
their-
don't-
what
I
were
don't
their
remember
names?
The exact car, but then they don't know their names. All I know is the one had gold chains, and he was talking like he's from the hood, and then they had like the one had buck teeth, and I was just like, what? How racist is that? And he had kind of like almost like a peasy hair type of look, and I'm like,
But
how
wait a minute.
racist is this thing?
There is no basis for that in reality. There's no cars that turn into a humanoid, Mike.
It's still racist.
Maybe they like gold chains. You don't know.
No. Just like when in the first movie when they had who was it? Was it Rumble?
It was the Italian
I think it was
snitch.
Rumble,
What was the
where
Italian
he-
snitch? Come on, man! Don't tell me I'll get you.
Yeah, he was on Air Force One, and he's trying to sneak by like these guards, so he puts his hand up, like they can't see them, as he's walking by them. I'm like, really? You're gonna insult my intelligence?
He puts
by
his
thinking
hand
that
up. What do you
that's
mean? He
gonna
puts
work?
his hand up?
You know how when you're trying to, like, kind of walk by somebody and hope that they don't
Oh,
notice you, you
okay.
kind of put your
It
hand
was supposed to be
by
a
your
joke,
face. Yeah, he does. It insulted my intelligence.
Man, you have some high hopes for some of these things, buddy.
I do, because if
See,
you're
they're
gonna make
messing with your
something
childhood. That's why you're
that-
pissed.
that listen, like if they came out with the Inhumanoids right now, and it was not
Dude, the
close
Inhumanoids
to
was
what you
horrible.
remember.
But I remember
You
the
would be
cartoon was
pissed.
pretty cool. No,
Or what was the other one?
Visionaries. That was one of my favorite ones. They were the knights with the magical
The
light.
Visionaries, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, like if they made a movie about that,
Yeah.
you would be upset
Yeah.
if it wasn't anywhere near that. Like instead of their chest
Well,
illuminating
dude,
and
that's what they
coming
do
up or
with my
something
comic
like that, they
book
had like
movies, dude. Up until the recent years, My favorite Daredevil, my favorite Dimension Daredevil. Everybody hated it. Oh my god, it's so stupid. They didn't do a great job. I like some parts of it because I liked how they portrayed. Now this new Daredevil Netflix show is like amazing because they're staying true to some things, but then they're kind of embellishing on other things. So it's the way they do it too.
Right.
I think they got to have certain freedom to keep stuff to the core and then build upon it. Where some of these movies, like, well, we got to make it palatable for everybody, so we have to do this, and this.
Yeah, but that's just the studios trying to make money. I mean, just like with the Deadpool movie. I mean, they pretty much what they did was they said, okay, let's take Ryan Reynolds, because we know he's a wise ass. Let's put him in this red spandex and just let him be Ryan Reynolds. And that's why it did so well, because it's Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds.
He wasn't being pet Deadpool.
Not Deadpool.
Because, I mean, I think they... And again, now in the comics, if you look at... That's how he is. They catered to the movies. They changed him. I mean, I think he was always kind of supposed to be kind of nuts. Like, not right in the head. But I don't remember so much of the whole... Like, so much of a wise ass. I thought it was more like and he was funny because he was crazy. But again, I'm not a big Deadpool. I think I gave up after Liefeld came out with him. I'm like, this guy, I can't hang him, can't handle him. And then he became so popular with these little kids that because he's a wise ass.
Right. Well, from what I remember from reading the comic books, the older comic books on him. He always had at least two personalities besides himself, always talking to him. So you had the kind of voice of reason who was kind of like a narrator, and then you had the crazier voice that was always telling him to do something stupid. And then he always had to argue between the two of them. So he would argue with the other two voices in his head, and then eventually he would just end up doing whatever he did, because either he was pissed off at them, or he was listening to one, or was trying to piss off another one. That's just how his rhyme or reason went about. In the movie, he didn't do that. In the movie, it was just kind of like, okay, I'm kind of nuts, and I'm just a wise ass, and that's
they picked up on those parts that the kids like. Oh, Ryan Reynolds, you were born for this role. No, you catered this role to Ryan Reynolds. But he did the whole breaking the fourth wall, and that's I think where they started to have him do that. And that wasn't him from day one. He didn't do that. That was some writer said, "This is what I'm going to do for his comic. I'm going to make him break this fourth wall." Because they said, "How are we going to make a comic about a bad guy?" An assassin. What does he do on his day off? So we're going to start making whatever. Because he was a bad guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was an assassin that somebody hired to go after Cable or somebody like that.
No, he was on. What was it?
No, he wasn't on X-Force. He eventually became that. No, he not from the get-go. I think he was. I think he was hired to. No. Maybe him and Dom. Two people, I think, were hired to kill the same person, and he turned on his whoever set the contract up. He like went on that side, but I don't think he was like one of Professor Xavier's. Oh, let's have him on this team. I think he kind of was a reoccurring character.
No, because remember, Cable wasn't on any team except his own. But yeah, from what I remember, he was always on X-Force. And then from X-Force, that's when he branched out on his own. But on X-Force, he wasn't as crazy as he is now. He was somewhat of a wisecracking person, but he wasn't crazy. You know, it was just kind of like he would say,
But if
wise
but
ass
in
type
the
things, and
movie,
that was
in
where
the
he left.
movie, why is he crazy?
Because of the torture that he went through. Well, if you remember, before he even went through all that, before they gave him the medicine and stuff like that,
Wacky.
he was
yeah,
already
he
a
was wacky, but
little
it was kind of
off.
almost to me. It felt kind of
Because-
like a felt like an act. Like, oh, this is how I play at being a jerk, you know. But I guess I don't know.
yeah.
He was he did a good. He's
But
one
only-
of the few people that kind of brought justice to their characters. I would say
Well, if his character, he brought.
maybe believability to the character in real world. You love
How
Deadpool
about
movie. Why are you
this?
tearing it apart now? What happened?
If no, I'm not tearing it apart. That's not what I'm saying. I like the Deadpool movie. It was great. It was awesome. You know, everything was great about it. But if we're going to talk about something that was based in the comic book reality,
no,
it wasn't
no.
based
And that's,
in
but
the
I'm saying
comic
that's
book
what they do with
reality.
every freaking.
it had. You know, when he breaks the fourth wall, and he's just like, he's talking about how he met the old lady, and then all of a sudden he's thinking of himself, of that past moment, and then in that moment he's talking to the camera, and he's like, fourth wall break within a fourth wall break. That's like 16 wall breaks. He's like, But once he does that, that's a typical, or
Ryan Reynolds.
not a typical, but that is a classic Ryan Reynolds move. That's just something that he would do. So, you know, when he does stuff like that, you
Yeah.
remember that's Ryan Reynolds.
So that's like we're not a lot of times when movies are coming out, like who's playing this character, who's playing that character. Like Will Smith and Deadshot, dude, that was not Deadshot. And I don't even know too much about Deadshot, but
No.
who was in that movie? Will Smith.
No.
There's nobody like Will Smith's walking
Right.
down the street and they go, "Hey, Deadshot." There's nobody saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's the other way around. Hey, you played in
How,
that movie.
how much you
played
want to
some
make a
guy
bet
that
that
was really good
soon,
at
if
shooting.
not already, in DC Comics, Deadshot's gonna be black because he's white in the comics.
Oh yeah. Well, have you seen some of the have you seen Suicide
No,
Squad
there's a
the cartoon?
Uh,
Yeah, there's a cartoon. It was
But they were
before
getting ready
the
for
actual
the
movie, and I think I think
Oh.
he was already black in that.
He's not
Yeah.
even that big of a deal on the original Suicide Squad. He's a deadly assassin, but he's not like the. Let me say every line. Let me direct how we do it. Let's everybody confer with me before we do something.
Well, in the cartoon again, and this was before the Suicide Squad came out, he was the main character. Like him and Harley Quinn had a sex scene, and it was just he was the main character, and he actually stopped Harley Quinn from destroying the city because the Joker had hid a nuclear bomb in her mallet, and she knew about it, and she was going to detonate it, and he stopped her from doing that. So, it's just, it was a weird cartoon. Like when I watched it, I'm like,
looks
what
like
the
it
hell
was
is this? I'm like,
2014.
wait,
I think
what?
when it came out.
Yeah, so it was just like I don't like I didn't know that much about Suicide Squad anyway.
Me
and then when
neither.
I
I mean,
watched
I
that,
think
I'm
I
like,
remember.
oh.
I remember the character. I remember the character looking kind of cool back in the day. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a cool. He's got the little thing on his arm, but he never like came across in any of the things I referenced. I never like. He doesn't seem like forget it. He was like a Batman enemy that they said, oh, we gotta.
Yeah, he's a Batman villain. Yeah.
I mean, he never gave Batman any call. He never like, oh no, I got to go up against Deadshot. It was just like, let me put him down.
yeah, no,
And in the movie, oh, I got to get back and I'm going to
Yeah.
settle the score, Batman. He's going to beat your ass like he always does because he's Batman. and you're lame. I mean, but in the movie, they did one of those videos where they rip it apart about here in so much time, here's everything wrong with the Suicide Squad movie, and they just tore it apart. He's carried the movie. Him and her carried the whole movie. And why does the bomb have to be through this flooded out tunnel? Oh, because we have this crocodile guy we have to use.
Exactly.
And then the girl, and then as I'm watching, I'm like, hey, like the girl, I need my heart, but then she's doing all this thing, and she has all this power without it, and yet at the end they have to kill.
Right. Yeah.
And the most powerful guy in it. Oh, I don't want to fight.
But
I'm peace now. I don't want to fight.
Yeah.
But he was a cool character. I mean, the movie was a pretty decent movie. It's just if they shouldn't have had Will Smith. They should have just had some regular Joe.
You know, I would be happy if they just made the movies.
Yeah,
because
then you could get behind the characters instead of getting behind the actors.
Yeah, I mean, like Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. Robert Downey Jr.
played Robert Downey
Again,
Jr.
You're right. You're
playing
right.
Tony Stark.
He does it. But, the thing about him is he is into it. He's not like, whatever.
Yeah.
He is into it.
Yes.
He kind of, like, he goes for it. And he supports it. He reinforces it. I like him in the role because, but again, me being I'm an Iron Man guy. I know Iron Man. That's not Tony Stark.
Right.
He was always smart. He was not a wisecracker.
No, not even close.
He's smart. He's smarter than everybody else, and he knows it, and he doesn't always necessarily, like, rubs it in their face. But he always, if there's a situation, he knows how to do it often. Like, his suit's all blown up, and he's like, well, if I take this piece, boom, I can defeat this guy. Like, he doesn't need the armor to defeat the villain. And it doesn't, now it's like, hey, who is it? Jarvis, how do I run me a scan on this? Like, he knows it, but still, he's doing it. Back when he didn't have the computer in his armor, he would be like, oh, I know that I have to do this, and if I heat this helium to this degree by putting this much power to my repulsor rays, I know. He knew that stuff. Exactly.
It was science, bitch.
It was, exactly. And so many of the comics is him. Look at the cartoon. We're going to make fun of it, but my heart, I can't take it. But he finds a way. And in the comics, it was always he saved the day by going beyond his armor, using something. I'm going to destroy this armor to get this one component that I know will be able to blah blah blah.
Yeah. Well, just like Spider-Man in Civil War, the new Spider-Man that they're having. I guess he would be the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, that would be the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Because the Ultimate Spider-Man did work with Tony Stark.
That would be the Ultimate Spider-Man. Yeah. Now,
yeah, but this kid
and that's why
is an unknown. Yeah, and this kid, I like the way he played. Spider-Man, because he's like geeking out because he's with all these heroes, and he's like, dude, you got a metal arm.
But he stopped it.
That's
and he's
awesome.
holding it. He's showing. He shows that he has his superpowers, but he's not like Spider-Man's never like, oh, I'm going to be able to do this. Like he never boasts about him, but he's like, oh wow, you got a metal arm. But if you're noticing it, he's holding his arm, and even Winter Soldier's like, hey, how are you doing? Almost like, how are you doing?
Yeah, like how the hell? I'm a
and
super
you're like
soldier. You shouldn't
little
be
kid
able to hold me back.
Yeah.
And that's just showing you, like, he's got a lot of power.
He doesn't know how to use it yet, which you could see.
Yeah.
He's kind of unsure about himself, but he's trying.
But he holds it. He holds his own against. He holds his own
geeking
against
out.
him. Yeah.
Right, but he's also geeking out because he's a kid. and I liked that they did that with him because it made him more.
But the
relatable.
the thing that sucks is they've washed Spider-Man out a little bit. Okay, let's restart it again. Let's restart it again. Let's restart it again. It would have been better if they never had the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and then this new kid came in, because it would be okay.
Yes.
But let's fuck it up for two. Let's do 2 movies, and then let's forget. Whatever happened happened. So were they going to do that again this time?
Yeah.
How many people are thinking that?
Well, but I think that's why Sony is working
Sony
with
doesn't have to
Marvel
fuck
now. And that's the problem. Sony, okay, they've done pictures for years, but they haven't done any real successful pictures besides
didn't
the
they do
Spider-Man
X-Men?
franchise. That's it.
And the X-Men
They did.
movies were
Yeah.
good, but they weren't great. I mean, all the
Okay.
Wolverine
Yeah, they
movies.
were
Now, did they do
okay.
the Wolverine movies? But all of them
don't
movies,
know
for
if
the
they
most
did.
part, well, okay. So let me say it this way: some of the Wolverine movies were better than any of the X-Men movies.
Yes. I agree with that. I mean, I had a lot of high hopes for the X-Men.
But again, they're old.
Movies,
If you think about it,
and
they're
they're
old
just
movies
not.
now. That's old technology. That's old way of thinking too.
Yes.
So now the new
Mhm.
class movies, they weren't too
Yeah,
bad.
well. No, they weren't.
Wait, how many of those?
No,
are
they
there?
weren't
3
that
of them.
You have X-Men First Class, and then you have Days of
Wasn't
Future
there one
Past,
before that?
and then you have the other
Oh,
one
Apocalypse.
that just came out. The
And my wife said she
Apocalypse, yes.
liked the First Class one because it was a good introduction.
yeah, my
and
wife
it was,
liked it too. Yeah.
and you saw enough of, hey, they're kind of being true to the characters to an extent. I mean, it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jackman, but they all can't be.
No, they can't. Even he gets into his character.
How
I mean,
many
he's
times
not
did
a
he say, "I'm
Wolverine.
not doing it anymore," and he's back for 5 more movies?
Oh yeah. Well, listen. How do you think Broadway
doesn't-
pays for it? I mean,
Doesn't pay.
he does a lot of Broadway work, and it
And he
doesn't
does
pay
that
as-
because
as
that's
well
what he
as
likes
doing
to
a
do.
movie.
So that's his, for me, and
Yeah,
the other ones for everybody else. Yeah.
that's his passion. Let's do what doesn't pay, and then when I start getting low on
Well,
money, then I
He
do
was
next
feeling that
Wolverine
he was
movie.
physically like, shit, I don't know if I can do this because he's getting older and it's very demanding to maintain that Wolverine shape. Because they always have his shirt off at some
Yeah,
point in the
well.
movie.
Yeah, I know. I know. Damn it, he looks so good.
Now I
mean,
read something
what?
recently. The dude that played
mean,
Bane,
huh?
what's his name? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I know who you're talking
He's
about.
like, I ruined my
Yeah.
body doing it because I can't. He put his body through an extreme amount to get all puffed up for the role, and then he's like, man, I had to
Right.
cut corners and
Mm-hmm.
do all this exercise and work out rigorously. And he's like, I'm too old to be doing that kind of fitness. Because how do they do it? They
Right.
have to do it. It's not like, okay, I lift my weights and then I'll skip a day. No, you're doing it every day, so your body's not getting that whole grow and
Yeah.
heal time. That's why you get all huge and stuff. Like I'm an expert, but anyways.
Right.
But he even said I can't. I definitely I know I messed something up. But look about what's his name, Christian
Right.
Bale. That dude. He went nuts.
Oh.
Did you ever see the Mechanic, that movie he was in where he was all skinny? My God, dude.
Yes.
He's
Yeah.
a walking skeleton.
Yeah.
In that movie. I was just like, how?
He is.
And then right after that movie, he went to Batman. So there wasn't even like, okay, I got a year
Yeah.
or 2 to recover. He was like right into that.
Well, he's one of those
He
actors
was able.
that gets
He was able to do it.
into
Yeah.
his role and overdoes it, and that's just how he does it. I mean, that's how
But then
he feels
that's
comfortable
what
doing
he's
that.
known for too. So then like, oh well, we need you to do blah blah blah, do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, but I just feel that there's some people that can pull it off.
That can
But there's
hide
other
behind the
people that-
character and let the
that-
character shine, and other ones is that's
Right.
the actor. Yeah, I mean you're right. You're right. Tony Stark. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is playing himself. Is a persona that
Yeah.
we kind of come to
Yeah,
know
that's-
over the years from his various characters that he's played. But he's,
Yeah.
I think because he does get into it, it's like okay. And again with Ryan Reynolds, because he got into it saying no, I want this and that. They're two people that we accept. That's how the character is supposed to be. Real comic book fans or real whatever fans are going to be like, well, but they're bringing our character that we love to light. So okay, if this is the cost of it,
Right.
yes, it's a good representation of
Just like what I said was when they came out with the new Star Trek, which is the reboot
Yeah,
of the original series. I spoke to a lot of people at my job, and I
it.
remember.
Yeah, but how old are those?
Like
how
most,
old are those?
Like
people?
most people, you talk to them about it. Well, those are people
they
that
older
remember
people, like
the
our age
original
and older?
series.
Or around our age?
Well,
okay. So
probably
they're fair.
older.
I mean, you can't
Yeah,
ask a 25-year-old
like older.
person.
Oh no! They wouldn't know any better. And I would ask them, and they're just like, I refuse. Like, there's a couple of
The
people
old
that said, I
show?
refuse to watch it. And I'm like,
Oh, okay.
no, the new show. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because it's not the original
Ah.
show, so I don't care for it. And I'm like, you know what? You have to remember, it's not going to be the old show, and it's never going to be the old show. Nobody can ever.
But I
make
think people
the
want to see
old
Captain
show.
Kirk in there. William Shatner. I'm sorry.
I mean, you want to. Yeah, I mean, you don't really want to
Well,
see
he's
William Shatner.
he's big and
I mean,
bloated.
you just don't.
Now, but I think people would be happy to see him as somebody in there.
Well,
Kinda like
yeah,
Spock.
I mean, I'm sure they would have, but the point is, if you remember it's a reboot, if you understand what's going on, they're messing with the universe, they're trying to make it more modern, they're trying to make it where it's more relatable to now. Understand, if you don't want to see that, I understand that. Go watch the 1970s.
And you'll probably be like, wow, I remember
Series
this being a
and-
little bit
and-
better.
Be happy with that. Yeah, and be happy with that. But for me, I mean, this is just the way I am. I want to see you bring something to life, and I want to see like an old show. Like if they redid.
Well, they have.
Thundercats, like back in the day. Well,
What do you mean
they
they
really
have?
haven't, but I mean, like I'm talking about like
Oh,
a live
yeah,
action
yeah.
type of thing. Like if they were to do something like that, I would be like, well,
Dude, those stories are horrible.
unless the storyline's really good. Well, yeah. I mean, well, yeah. But you got to remember, back in the 80s, it wasn't about a story. It was about, like you said, it
Hey,
was a
hey, can you
30-minute
write? Yeah, I can
commercial
write. You're the writer.
to sell the toy. Yeah. I mean, there was no storyline from one.
They're like, hey, can
episode
I
to
be the
the
writer
next.
this week?
It could be
Yeah,
a-
you can be the writer this week and next week. Go ahead, whatever you want. But but my
Alright.
story has nothing to do with last week's story. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Chitara was killed last week. That's
What
We
about
got her in
He-Man?
this week.
You didn't like
Oh,
He-Man
God.
when you were
He-Man
watching
was
it back in
another
the
one.
day. At all?
no.
I thought
I did
thought
not
Skeletor was
enjoy it.
really cool. I thought He-Man was cool. Yeah.
Well, you have a
No, I liked
macabre
all the different
type
characters. I
of
mean, yeah, there was the
thing.
stupid shows.
No, you liked anything that was macabre. If
Skeletons?
it had to do with Creature of the Black Lagoon.
But I liked
Wolfman,
He-Man. I liked He-Man. I
you
thought
know,
he was cool.
I liked He-Man.
And my
sure.
nephew, my God, my nephew
Oh,
had. I'd go over.
all
I mean, I was already
sexy
out of
running
the
around
the
half
toy.
naked.
Okay, the face-to-face toy collecting phase, but my nephew had every
Mm-hmm.
one of those damn He-Man guys, and I like they were so cool. I'm like, what's this B guy with pinchers, and this guy with real. The Moss guy had like real fuzzy I'm like, whoa, these are awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, they followed in that pattern that
You're like,
they
"Can I
all look the
touch it?"
same, just changed the head and painted it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's all it was. Let's paint this different and let's change the head and
They
new
even
character.
had a He-Man that was blue. He was like the evil He-Man was in one episode,
Yeah.
and they brought a toy out for it.
Well, I think if I remember watching something on that, He-Man was created to
Oh, is that
offset
it
the
was?
GI Joes. Yeah, because what it was is GI Joes were very popular, and they were taking most of the market. So what they did was they
The reverse,
created
nothing modern, old.
this.
Swords.
Yeah. So they created this very muscular type of, Titan type of toy. And what they did was they said, okay, let's create this toy line. Let's make a cartoon, and let's sell it through the cartoon.
You know what they did?
And that's what they did.
They actually had comic book artists draw the book that came with the original He-Man toys. The original He-Man was a caveman,
Oh,
like a Neanderthal type guy, that the princess needed somebody to defend the castle. So she said, "Hey, I'll give you, I'll make you, so she kind of made him an offer, and then I'm going to give you great. I think he was a caveman type guy. She was getting attacked by somebody. He helped her, and then she said, "I'm going to reward you by making you, more powerful than anybody else, any other caveman that's been." And he became He-Man, which is, more sophisticated, smarter and more powerful than anything. So I remember reading the comic, well, this is kind of a cool little
Right.
story. But then they had to do the whole, hey, I'm a prince and blah, 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 and I'm gay. And
yeah.
I do remember,
It was-
I do remember going,
it
yeah, I
was
can't
pretty
wait.
bad.
And they're like, these shows are
It was
they're
bad.
not really that good, but he's still kind of cool. Okay, I'll watch it for these three characters. I just, all those shows at the time.
Then they had that stupid Orko, and then they had all these like Cringer, who he was a scaredy cat, and then as soon
And
as
then he had the,
transformed, then all of a
hey,
sudden he
I'm
was
tough
all-
now. Let's go kick their ass. Yeah. I liked
Yeah,
Merman.
yeah.
That was one
It's
of my
like,
favorite characters. He was a fish guy. I like that.
All I can tell you is a movie with
Dolph
Ralph Lundgren or
Lundgren or whatever his name
Dolph
was. Yeah.
Lu-
That was.
Dolph Lundgren. Oh
But
my
you
God.
watched it. You
That was
watched
just
it.
Cheese. I did because I was expecting a
And
good
you were
movie,
so.
and guess what? I was disappointed.
They don't know how to write those movies.
But you
But
know
what about the newer cartoon? Did
You
you ever
know,
see
the
the newer
thing is
cartoon
that-
of He-Man? And
I
how was
did,
that?
I did, and some of
The
them were
artwork
kind
was
of good.
better.
Yeah, the artwork was kind of better,
Yeah,
but
I
the
mean, it's a kid's
storylines
show.
were still not.
I mean, it's a kid show. They
100%
can't.
there.
They can't get into serious stuff because kids are
Yeah.
watching it, and you can't. Yeah.
And if they're trying to sell it, they market it to kids.
Well,
yeah,
what
I
the
understand.
friend at
Yeah,
work
it's
was
just
telling
one
me
of those
about the
things. It's just-
Clone Wars cartoon, and I caught a couple episodes here and
Yeah.
there, and he goes, because he's a big toy person and Star Wars person, Lego person, so he's like, yeah, you gotta, because I told him, I was like, hey, I started watching it because the game, our little game we've been playing, it got me into some Star Wars fever, so I was like, let me watch this.
Right.
And it's, and he's like, you got to kind of stick with it because in the beginning it was geared towards kids, and then because
Yeah.
they didn't find a market, and then they said, hey, we got to
It
make
was.
this towards the Star Wars fans. So it's kind of kiddie in
Exactly.
the beginning, and then it gets
Yeah.
better towards the end.
It was pretty bad in the beginning, and then it really started getting good because they started making the storylines more. I don't want to say
Yeah.
adult oriented, but it was a storyline that an adult can follow.
And
not
what
be
I
disappointed.
noticed I just watched the first episode. That's what all I watched just to see what's going on. Everybody looks pretty good. I mean, looks like they're, movie the real life counterpart parts
Yeah.
pretty well. They did a good caricature of what they look like. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. Keeping
Yes.
it, true to that.
Yeah, it gets pretty good. I mean, when I think his name is General Grievous.
Yeah,
That's the guy with the 4 arms. When he comes out, I mean, some of the episodes with him is pretty good. Yeah, you really gotta you gotta hang in there and.
Well,
and
what about
really
our
get through
game?
that
We're going to
first
talk
season.
about that?
I mean, well, we are, but
We're
I don't
lost
think we should
in
talk
that
about it
game.
here. We are, but yeah, we've been playing Star Wars. Knights
It's
of the
good.
Old
It's better than I
Republic, or
expected.
the Old Republic Knights.
For me, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it is pretty good. It's just that you have to get into like a level
Who knows?
20. Well, not really. You just have to find each other to play.
But yeah,
together,
there-
and
it's not
really
a
tough
very
doing that because
intuitive
It's
System for a lot of their things. Like, okay, from other
No.
games, okay,
it's
Yeah.
really made for solo.
So I'm like, how do I do
It really
this? And
is.
you don't need to do any of those other things. You just go through the quest. It's pretty good about leading you from quest to quest that you go past the little side quests and stuff. So you're not
Yeah.
ever going to be like, I have nothing to do from here to here.
Right. Yeah, you're never going to be bored in it. But as
yeah.
you get higher in levels, you'll find that you definitely are challenged, and you need to group up.
Well, I
because you
noticed
can't
that in the beginning. I'm
pass
like,
some of those
what's the
things.
need to ever group with somebody? Because I'm kicking ass. I don't even waste any. I never die. And then when you get a little bit further up and you
Yeah.
do go against some of those bosses, you're like, wait a minute, I'm like barely doing any damage here. It's not just button.
Exactly.
button.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, on this note, I think we should end it.
So, but we all here in the
we've-
blog world and the computer world want to know when you're going to be playing with your Star Trek drone.
Well, I guess we could say it's a.
See, that was
to be
that was not a
continued.
never. Aha!
That is a to be continued. Because I could probably find a used one and
No, Mike, that one
get
right
that
there.
and
It is calling to you this moment.
use
You could
that
be
one.
playing with that in
No.
5 minutes.
it is not.
You could boldly be going in 5
is
minutes
not.
from this moment where no man has gone before.
Listen, stop trying to use your Jedi mind tricks on me. What was that? What was that character from the first movie?
You can't use
Jabba,
your.
Jabba the Hutt.
He would say.
He had everybody. He had everybody
No, it
in the
wasn't
place,
Jabba the Hutt.
like listening to him, and they're all kind of like surrounding Jabba, like kind of rallying with Luke, and he says, "Jedi, you can't use your mind tricks won't work with me." And I think Luke was even like, "Oh shit, guess I'm gonna have to do this the hard way."
No, that was in. Return of the Jedi. Wasn't
wait
it?
a minute,
Yeah,
was
that
that
was in
the,
Return of the Jedi. But I'm talking about
The first. I'm talking
crab
about the
movies.
first movie.
Yeah, was that junk that
Yeah, yeah.
flying
In the
junk
first-
insect reptile, whatever he was?
Yeah, whatever he was. He was just like,
Jedi, you can't use your mind
He's
tricks on
Jewish.
me. And he's like, the only thing that works on
Yeah,
me is
see?
money.
you're just like, that's racist. That's just racist.
I think that was Sanford and Son.
And he said, "You big dummy." He said, "You big dummy." That won't work on me. All right. So we're calling it a night. Yep. Thanks for hanging in with us, guys. I know this is a long one, but we had a lot to discuss.
Well, this was the
that,
unedited version.
really, but yeah, by this point you probably
Felt fullness.
already have clicked onto some girl bouncing around on a trampoline or something. So,
Yes.
so thanks for hanging in. More to come.
Paul
Michael
Romanek,
Boy,
come
he's-
spend some silly time with us.
Yep. And
Have a good night.
Guys, have a good night.